Today on Hands on Tech, I got my hands on another amazing camera. Man, I am the luckiest dude on this planet. Today we're going to take a look at the Canon C70. Oh, you're really going to dig this if you're in that RF line of things. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Casper. When it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. Explore Casper's products, mattresses, sheets, pillows, and more at casper.com/twit1 and use code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Pruitt, and this is Hands on Tech here on TWiT TV. I hope y'all are doing well. I am unbelievable as always. And yes, I have the honor and the pleasure of being able to play with some interesting and fascinating, cool technology, especially cameras. And that's no different this time because I got my hands on the awesome Canon C70. All right. Thank you to Canon for hooking this up and sending this over for me to play with. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to play with this thing. So let me give you a quick rundown on what this camera is, because, you know, it's well known that I have an affinity for Canon as far as what I'd like to shoot with photography and so forth. And so I've always been interested in what Canon's been doing, not only on the photography side, but in the video side as well. In this particular body here, this is not a hybrid, so you're not going to be shooting photos and videos with this. This is strictly video. It's got the C demarcation on it for their cinema line. Canon has a couple different cinema cameras out there. Most notably is you have the C100, you have the C200, you have the C300, C500, and so on and so forth. But where does this camera come into play? The C70, where does this come into play? Well, Canon has positioned this to be the camera that's going to help the people that are already using their RF system, coming from the EOS R, the EOS R6, and EOS R5, that has that particular RF mount and those RF lenses, get them out of the hybrid world of shooting, but now pushing them towards, well, not really pushing, but encouraging them to go towards the cinema side of things and boosting their skill set and capabilities in the world of content creation. You can pick this body up and it's going to feel pretty much like a mirrorless camera, but just a little bit chunkier and a little bit, just a touch heavier than what a mirrorless camera would feel like. And you can even rig this thing out to totally be a monster of a cinema camera. Let's get into the tech standpoints real quick here. So again, we have a body that's the size of roughly just a little bit larger than a regular Canon R5. It's going to weigh at about 3 pounds, but if you add a lens to it and the battery to it, it's going to be just over 4 pounds, right up under 5 pounds in weight. From an ergonomic standpoint, again, still going to feel quite comfortable for people that are used to shooting with the regular consumer-based mirrorless and DSLR bodies. Sensor size on this is a Super 35 sensor. This is not a full frame sensor, which is pretty common inside of cinema cameras. The sensor does offer 4K resolution. Actually, it's 4K up to 120 frames per second with their shooting capabilities. If you want to shoot higher than 120 frames per second, you cap out at 180 frames per second, but that's in HD quality. That's not in 4K and 4K DCI. With the video capabilities, you get not only your standard 8-bit video and MP4 formats, but you also get 10-bit video at 420 or 422 capability with this camera. So you're getting a lot of data and a lot of capability to play around in post when it comes to color grading and so forth. So with that said, you can shoot in standard Rec 709. You could shoot in Canon's flat profile C-Log2 or C-Log3. You can also shoot in HLG for HDR. This is a pretty powerful image sensor on processing system inside of this camera. It's using a DV7 from Canon, which is the same image sensor found in their upper echelon cinema cameras, these such as the C300, and that camera is going to cost you probably almost twice as much as this one. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. I've enjoyed just taking this out and shooting with this on more of a run and gun standpoint, because it's perfectly built for that. It's got everything I need from an ergonomic standpoint, and all of the inputs and outputs on here are just perfectly laid out for me. So if I show you this on the screen, you have all of these different ports on the side. You have two XLR ports right here for plugging in external microphones. I don't necessarily recommend that. I would suggest using some other preamp service, such as a MixPre for your audio recording. You also have a headphone jack to monitor audio. You got a bunch of different buttons here, and I noticed they're all labeled. Like this one, button 1 is labeled for white balance, and then you have focus peaking on number 3 and so forth. But those buttons are also customizable. You don't necessarily have to use them for that. If you look at button 4, it has WFM on it for waveform, and it also has a red circle around it, which looks just like a record button. So for me, I designated this button as a record button just in case I'm holding it a certain way. And I've just made it a little bit easier for me to hit record in my scene. Now, granted, the record button right on the top is still in a nice spot as far as ergonomic standpoint goes, but it's nice to know I have an additional option here. I didn't necessarily like the waveform button being right there. When you look at the waveform on the LCD, you don't want it on there all the time. At least I didn't. And every now and then it was nice to be able to just hit the button to turn that waveform off and on. I ended up assigning this button here on the back, button number 9. There's like 12 buttons on here that you can customize. I ended up using that as my waveform button. Now this touch screen here, the Vary screen, it does flip out all the way around and rotate, giving you an easy way to shoot with this, regardless of the angle that you're shooting from. It does have a touch interface, but it's a part-time touch interface. I found that curious because there are sometimes in the menus that you want to tap on something and it's not there. You have to use the actual physical buttons and dials to navigate through the menus. And then there's other instances where you can actually touch. So every now and then I was a little bit confused on that, but it's just one of those learning curve kinds of things. Again, back to the hardware though, the back button here, all of this feels fine if you're just holding it in your hand. You even get this little extra strap to wrap around your fingers just for extra security if you want. But all of this, again, it feels totally fine. There's this joystick on the back. If you're coming from the Canon R5, R6 world, you know about those little joysticks. But this joystick, I'm not too thrilled with it. It has everything that I would have. It does almost everything you need it to do, but every now and then it can be just a little bit stiff going from left to right. I find going from right to left to be a lot better, but something about going left to right, I just couldn't always get it to trigger as quickly as I wanted it to trigger. Never could figure that out. Okay, so let's go back to some of the information regarding the sensor here. Again, I said this uses an RF mount. This is Canon's new ecosystem that they've started up with their R line of cameras. And I'm wondering if they're going to start to put this on more of their cinema cameras, because right now most of their cinema cameras are shooting with the EF bodies. But if you had an R5 or an R6 or an R, this is allowing you to take those lenses from those cameras and put them into a cinema space without any issue. But if you're someone like me that don't have the R series and you're still using EF glass, you can get yourself an adapter to mount to the camera that will mount EF lenses to an RF mount. The benefits of having that RF mount is the flange distance from the lens to the sensor. So it gives you a different field of view and gives you optimal clarity as far as your shot goes. And it also allows you to be able to mount different types of lenses to this body rather easily with an adapter. And when I tested this out using the regular RF mount lenses with it, of course, it performed as it should quite nicely. But Canon also sent me the adapter to try with it, and which is another $600, but we'll get into pricing shortly. The adapter just connected right to it pretty easily. put my EF lenses on it, and it worked without a hitch. Autofocus was just working just as it should. The image stabilization in the lenses worked as it should. So that's quite impressive, and it allows people that if you already have glasses already sitting out there that's just collecting dust, and you could still use it on these newer bodies. Okay, so from a video standpoint, this thing is absolutely beautiful. Shooting in C-Log 2 and C-Log 3 are my preferred picture profiles to use on this. Okay, so C-Log 2 is flat, C-Log 3 is flat. If you're shooting in C-Log 2, you're going to get a lot of flexibility to be able to push and pull your colors and get your grading to just look so magnificent. And some people found C-Log 2 to be quite a challenge because it's so flat. You really have to dive into it. Canon does have some free LUTs out there available to help speed up that process. But Canon has also updated the firmware to give you C-Log 3 on this device. And C-Log 3 is aimed at those that are just trying to speed this up just a little bit more. So it supposedly is a little bit easier to edit in it. I didn't see much of a difference in the performance standpoint from editing in C-Log 2 versus C-Log 3. The main thing that I pointed out when doing my post-processing in DaVinci Resolve with this camera was, man, if I'm using an RF lens, ooh, those images are super, super sharp, almost too sharp. I think that's just the quality of the glass coupled with the powerful image processing here built into this body. Shooting in 4K, it's it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And when I want to shoot in high frame rate to do some slow motion, shooting at 120 frames per second, it's beautiful because I don't have to crop down. Most cameras, when you're shooting above the standard 60p, they tend to give you a cropped in view of the higher frame rate frame in there. And I just can't get that. I shoot right now on this Blackmagic Cinema camera here. I love it. But whenever I want to shoot it in high frame rate, my image automatically goes down to 2.7K. So it's like super duper cropped in, and I have to make adjustments for that in my framing. Thank you, Canon, and for keeping that thing just the way I want it and giving me all the pixels that I have available to me. All right, so again, back to the Super 35 sensor. That may be an issue for some folks because a lot of people coming from that R series camera, they're shooting on full frame sensors. And with a full frame sensor versus a Super 35 sensor, your field of view is going to change. It's actually going to shrink down by maybe almost 10%. That's just how it is. That's pretty much how all cinema cameras are. They're using Super 35 sensors. So you have to train yourself to say, you know what, I'm on a different sensor, so things are going to be a little bit tighter than what I expect. But if you really, really have to have that full frame experience, the Canon EF to RF adapter will allow you to get back to a full frame view with that adapter attached using the EF glass. You'll even get one stop of additional light added, so you get a little bit more performance from a low light standpoint. Personally, when I tried it, I didn't see much of a difference in the low light performance with the adapter on versus the adapter off, but I definitely saw the change in the field of view. I definitely picked up just a little bit more headspace in my framing when I tested it out. I sat down in my room and framed up a shot, put some tape on the floor and set my tripod down, measured out the camera to be about 7 feet from me, the subject, lined it up, framed it up and so forth, and recorded it. And it looks good, regardless if I was using the bare bones RF lens or using a adapted EF lens. Looks quite nice. Again, just figure out how you want to do your framing and field of view, and you should be good to go. Now, from a social standpoint, I thought it was clever because they put these little quarter 20 threads not only on the bottom of this camera, but you also have one on the side of the camera. Really, the side. Well, why is that? Well, they put it on the side because you put it on the tripod just like this in portrait mode, and this allows you to shoot stories for TikTok and Instagram and Twitter or whatever social platform that you're using, as long as you mounted it to a tripod. So Canon is thinking ahead and trying to go beyond just shooting more so for the big screen, because they understand that someone that's coming from that R series of cameras, they're probably shooting a lot of promotional items, a lot of social media items that can be used for branding. And a lot of branding is shot in portrait mode. It's not my favorite, but it is what it is. So it's nice to know that that capability is there. And Canon is making it a little bit easier with that 1/4-20 thread right there. And also giving you the ability to have your viewfinder and very screen sitting straight out to the side like that, so you can see how everything is looking in your frame. This episode of Hands on Tech is brought to you by Casper. Love your tomorrow with Casper. The new Casper cooling collection has everything you need to help you sleep cool all night long. Casper's mattresses with new snow technology, hyperlight sheets, lightweight duvets, and breathable mattress protector are all designed to keep you cool and comfortable, so you can't help but to love your tomorrow. Tomorrow is a new day, y'all. Make the most of it with Casper's new cooling collection. Casper's Wave Hybrid Snow Mattress keeps you cool for over 12 hours, pulling heat away from your body for sustained temperature regulation and a cool to the touch feeling and much improved tomorrow. Better bedding makes for a better tomorrow, y'all, which is why Casper's Hyperlight Sheets are designed with an innovative grid weave that lets air flow through for maximum breathability. The lightweight duvet provides optimal temperature control without sacrificing plush comfort. Casper's breathable mattress protector improves the coolness of the bed even further by allowing air to flow between your body and the mattress. All of these are designed to work together to prevent overheating all night, because cooler sleep means better sleep, and better sleep means what? Better tomorrows. I got a Casper mattress about a year ago, and I got to tell you, it totally changed the way we sleep. There's no more waking up with aches and pains. Such a great mattress. And as always, Casper offers free shipping and free returns. So when it comes to a better night's sleep, Casper's new cooling collection has you covered. Focus on tomorrow. Let Casper handle the rest. Explore Casper's products, mattresses, sheets, pillows, and more at casper.com/twit1 and use code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. That's code TWIT1 for $100 off select mattresses. Exclusions apply. See casper.com for details. Okay. Performance on this thing, folks. This is a beast of a camera. It is. It's a beast of a camera. You get 2 SD card slots on it because you're shooting in with all of those big, huge 4K files. I found that interesting. I thought they would have gone more so with like a CF Express type B or something like that. So if you're going to shoot with SD, make sure you're shooting in UHS 2, because those are the only ones that are going to be compatible with handling such big data rates coming in and right into those cards. Preferably shoot something on a V90 card. I only have V60 cards. I didn't have any V90s. And quite frankly, I was not going to order a V90 card just for this review. But I was able to record most of my footage on those V60 cards, whether it was high frame rate or not. But you'll definitely get a much better performance and not a hassle of losing frames if you shoot on a V90. As a matter of fact, I did a little short film of one of my hardhead boys, as always, just to try out the prowess of this camera. So I went out to the football fields and watched his 7-on-7 competition and came up with this little bit of footage here. right. So I hope you enjoyed that footage. Again, this thing is pretty daggum strong. The autofocus on it is dual pixel autofocus. It's pretty good. For some reason, I think you get better autofocus on the R5, but this is still, it's still usable, I should say. But most people shooting in the cinema camera world, they're not doing a lot of autofocus. Most people are going to be doing their own focus pulling just because it's a lot safer if you can trust yourself with the autofocus. Battery life is totally fine. You get about an hour, just a little over an hour per battery that's used with these. These are pretty large batteries. And so even with shooting at these higher frame rates and higher resolutions, it still gives you ample battery life. You can get this camera, and think about the comparison, folks. So you can get the C70 for $5,499. We'll have some links here in the show notes, affiliate links, of course. But you compare that to the slightly older C200, which is the same price. So you're getting a bit of an upgrade for the same price of an older camera. Now compare that to the C300, which is right at $11,000. Woo! That's an expensive camera. You're getting something right in the middle between those two. The benefit of this camera, the C70, is no, it's not going to cost you $11,000, but it's going to have the exact same image sensor and processor that $11,000 camera has. And there's a whole lot more things going on with that C300. I don't want to get into that. The main capability that the C300 has versus the C70 does not have is the ability to shoot video in RAW format. That was a little bit unfortunate because I'm used to shooting B-RAW with my Blackmagic cameras, and I like having the capabilities of shooting underexposed here and there and sometimes overexposed, because that raw data allows me a little bit more flexibility in saving a shot that I totally screwed up. And with the C70, I definitely needed to have my exposure locked in. And if I couldn't get it locked in, I had the opportunity to fire up one of the internal ND filters to help me get everything squared away. But I still wish I had RAW. But yeah, get this camera for $5,499 online. You can also get the EF adapter for another $600 if you'd like, the EF to RF adapter. I think that's a good value for the people that have Canon glass just sitting around on their shelves and not be able to just sort of throw that glass away, because that glass is still good to use. Again, we'll have notes. We'll have links in our show notes to this camera, so you can check it out for yourselves. We appreciate all the support. Thank you again to Canon for sending this on over to me. And thank you to my contact at Canon. It has one of the coolest Instagram pages and most happy Instagram pages that I see each and every day. You know who you are. Thank you so much for your support. All right, folks, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout. I am ant_Pruitt on Twitter, or better yet, go check out my show, Hands on Photography. That's twit.tv/hop. All right, folks, y'all safely create and dominate, and we'll catch you next time.
No ads, just the content. That's what you get when you join Club Twit. You even get extras like Twit Plus, our new bonus feed just for members, and exclusive access to the Club Twit Discord community. Join now for just $7 a month and support Twit as we continue to create top-notch podcasts you expect and deserve. We're just getting started, so be one of the first to join as we build Club Twit from the ground up. You could be an early member. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit to learn more and sign up now. Thanks. Keep up with all the hottest tech news and gadgets. Visit twit.tv. There you'll be able to find and subscribe to all our tech shows. Thanks for watching Hands on Tech.